All right, let's jump right into one of the most, shall we say, controversial ideas from the 48 Laws of Power. We're talking about law number 2. And this one, well, it pretty much challenges everything we think we know about friendship. It forces us to take a hard look at the ruthless, sometimes uncomfortable realities of power. And this quote from Voltaire, wow, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Lord, protect me from my friends. I can take care of my enemies. It's a total paradox. I mean, we're taught to fear our enemies, but this law suggests that the real danger, the one you don't see coming, is often from the people we trust the most. So, what's going on there? Let's dig into a couple of, frankly, jaw-dropping stories from history to see it in action. Okay, so our first story is a really tragic one. Picture this. We're in the Byzantine Empire, middle of the 9th century. There's this young, totally inexperienced emperor, Michael III, who just got the throne. And his court, it's an absolute snake pit. We're talking murderers, schemers, the whole deal. He desperately, desperately needs someone he can trust, an advisor who has his back no matter what. So, who does he pick? Does he go for his smart, ambitious uncle? Nope. He turns to his best friend, a guy named Basileus. And Basileus? He's a former stable boy with, like, zero political experience. So why him? Well, because years ago, Basileus saved his life. And for Michael, that one act of bravery was everything. It was proof of a loyalty he believed was worth more than any political savvy. And just look at how fast things escalated. I mean, it was meteoric. Michael just showers Basilius with gifts, titles, everything. He goes from a humble stable groom to head of stables to the emperor's most trusted advisor. In just a few short years, this guy is the second most powerful man in the entire empire. Michael thought all this generosity would forge this unbreakable bond, a bond of pure gratitude. Oh boy, was he wrong. Disastrously wrong. Because the second Basilius gets a taste of real power, his ambition just explodes. It's insatiable. He starts seeing Michael's powerful uncle, a guy named Bardas, as a threat to his own position. So what does he do? He starts poisoning Michael's mind, whispering in his ear that his own uncle is plotting against him. And then, in this absolutely shocking move, Basilius himself murders Bardas. And he does it all in the name of protecting his friend, the emperor. And this right here, this is the turning point, the moment the whole thing shatters. Think about it. Michael has given his friend literally everything: wealth, status, immense power. But what happens when the person doing all the giving, the emperor himself, actually needs a little something back? So Michael, who's been living it up, finds himself in a bit of a financial jam. He goes to Basilius and asks him to repay some of the loans, the money he'd been gifted. And Basilius? He just flat out refuses. In that single moment, the blinders come off for Michael. He sees the truth. All that gratitude he thought he'd earned, it wasn't real. He hadn't created a loyal friend. He'd created a monster who felt entitled to it all and who was now, terrifyingly, more powerful than he was. The end came fast, and it was unbelievably brutal. Just a few weeks later, Basilius sends soldiers to Michael's private rooms. They stab the emperor to death while his former best friend just stands there and watches. Then Basilius declares himself emperor, rides through the streets, and get this, he's holding Michael's severed head on the end of a pike. A truly horrifying end to a friendship that was built on nothing but misplaced trust. So Michael's story is a pretty brutal lesson, right? Trusting a friend just because he's a friend can be a fatal mistake. But what if there's another way to play this game? Let's switch gears and head over to 10th century China. A new ruler, Emperor Sung, has just inherited a throne that was famous for backstabbing and betrayal. And he decided to take a completely different approach. See, Emperor Sung was smart. He knew that the very generals who helped him grab power, his so-called friends, were now his biggest threat. It was only a matter of time before they'd turn on him, just like he'd done to the last guy. So instead of making Michael's mistake and showering them with more power, he came up with this brilliant plan to neutralize them. And then he did something really interesting. He turned to his enemies for help. And his method was just genius. He throws this huge, fancy banquet for all his top commanders. But he doesn't threaten them. Instead, he makes them an offer they just can't refuse. He basically says, look guys, you can live a life of anxiety, always plotting, always looking over your shoulder, or I can give you huge estates and tons of money, and you can retire in total peace. What do you think happened? The very next day, every single general resigned. Just like that, he turned a pack of hungry wolves into harmless, happy lambs. So, with his powerful friends now enjoying retirement, Sung starts working with his former enemies. He pardons this one guy, King Liu, a rebel who was 100% sure he was about to be executed. Liu was so blown away by this unexpected mercy, so overcome with actual gratitude, that he became one of Sung's most loyal supporters. You see, a former enemy has so much more to prove, and way less to expect. That makes them, ironically, a lot more reliable. And the results of this incredible strategy? Over 300 years. 300 years of stability. Emperor Song completely broke the cycle of violent coups that had plagued the throne. His dynasty ruled for centuries. It's an amazing testament to the power of being careful with friends and knowing how to strategically use an enemy. Okay, so we've seen the stories from history, but let's talk about the why. What's the psychology behind all this? Why is hiring a friend so often a total recipe for disaster? Well, it all boils down to this really complicated and often really heavy emotion: gratitude. See, when you hire a friend, you throw the whole dynamic off balance. Suddenly, there's this favor hanging in the air. It can feel like this heavy weight, a constant little reminder that maybe, just maybe, they didn't get the job on merit alone. And that feeling, it doesn't breed gratitude. It breeds resentment. People want to feel like they earned their success. Your act of kindness, even with the best intentions, can make them feel indebted, even inferior. And from there, it's a short hop to envy and eventually betrayal. The Roman historian Tacitus absolutely nailed this centuries ago. He said, "Gratitude is a burden and revenge a pleasure." It's so true. Being grateful feels like you owe someone something, but getting revenge, that feels powerful. It's kind of a dark part of human nature for sure, but it's something you absolutely have to understand if you're trying to navigate the world of power. Okay, so if friends can be so dangerous, what about that second half of the law? Learn how to use enemies. This is where things get really interesting because the strategy becomes proactive. It's not just about playing defense anymore. It's about taking a negative and flipping it into a huge positive. Think about it. A former enemy that you win over to your side, that person is an untapped goldmine of motivation. A friend might take you for granted, right? But a former rival, they are desperate to prove their worth, to prove their newfound loyalty. Their commitment isn't built on messy, complicated emotions. It's built on a clear-eyed calculation of what's in it for them. And honestly, that's often a much more solid foundation. And there's not just one way to approach this either. You could pull an Abraham Lincoln and destroy an enemy by making them your friend. Or you could be like the diplomat Talleyrand and forge an alliance that's based on pure, cold self-interest, no feelings involved. Or, and this one is really fascinating, you could take a page from Mao Zedong's book and just keep them as your enemy. Yeah, you heard that right. Now believed that having a strong, well-defined enemy is actually a huge asset. It keeps you sharp. It keeps you focused, alert. For your followers, it makes the mission crystal clear. That whole us versus them thing can be an incredibly powerful tool for uniting your team and getting them fired up. Because let's face it, without an enemy to fight, it's easy to get lazy and complacent. So look, the big takeaway here isn't that you should become some paranoid loner who abandons all their friends. Not at all. It's about being a realist. This law is really just forcing you to question your assumptions about where loyalty comes from. It's about being more strategic. It's asking you to look around and really think, who in your life has more to prove? Who is more motivated to help you? And who might be hiding resentment behind a friendly smile? It's a tough question, for sure. But in the game of power, it's one of the most important ones you can ask.